Welcome to the Trust Factor Podcast, the only podcast that guarantees your success when you implement its divine age-old teachings. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on another episode of the Trust Factor Podcast. I hope you had a great day yesterday. I got a lot of good feedback from you guys on the podcast, and so we're going to continue a little bit in that vein. We're going to talk about a little bit more about the second example I wanted to tell you yesterday. Yesterday, if you recall, we talked about the firebombing of Hatzalah ambulances. Guys, just stop and think about that. I hope that the point hit home. I hope you really reflected on it, because if you ever wanted ammunition to be able to step up against the masses and the people who just speak out of ignorance, this is a wonderful example. It's clear as day. The Jewish communities, no matter where you go on planet Earth, have set up infrastructure to be able to increase and improve the value of human life and the human experience. It doesn't matter where you go. The more Jewish the community, the more resources we have at our disposal to be able to improve the quality of Jewish life. That's not by coincidence. And that's a big reason why many other cultures and communities follow the Jewish community. You often see that wherever Jews live, despite it being a much more expensive place to live, again, not a coincidence, other nations and cultures follow because they understand that where the Jewish nations go, they bring good, they bring love, they bring peace, they bring resources, they bring intellect. That's why they follow the Jewish communities. So yeah, in London and in Toronto and in New York and in every major city almost on planet Earth, you will find a Hatzalah, an organization committed to saving lives, to work alongside the local ambulatory service, because oftentimes, especially through times of crises, I should know, I was around during COVID as a responder, where the system is stretched beyond its capabilities. And that's not just through crises. It happens oftentimes because these organizations are often government funded and they're limited in their resources. And so along comes Jewish organizations like Hatzalah and sets up additional resources at our expense to be able to assist to ease the workload on these resources so that more people can be treated in a timely, life-saving fashion. Same thing goes with security in Shomrim. We set up additional security services to be able to put patrols out. Who do you think benefits from those patrols? Because I can assure you it's not just the Jewish community. It's anybody and everybody living within that region. And then along comes the opponent. Along come the people who we are fighting actively in the Middle East and have been fighting for generations. And they show the world with absolutely no sense of obscurity what they stand for, which is exactly the opposite of us. They set our ambulances on fire. What's the message? You don't have to read between the lines. Do you know why? Because they themselves have told us in no unclear terms, they have said that we love death like the Jews love life. That's their words. That's Hamas, not my words. They've put this out. It's on public record. It's their mantra. They love death like the Jews love life. Golda Meir said very wisely that there will only be peace when the Palestinians learn to love their children more than they hate the Jews. It's very, very true. The seething hate of antisemitism blinds people. And when you have an Islamist leadership, dictatorship, that brainwashes every single generation after generation, with the same garbage, the same filth, and keeps them illiterate and unable to learn for themselves, this, my friends, is what you have. You have a Middle East that is living in the Stone Ages. You have a Middle East that is priming their children for suicide bombers. Think about this. Go into the woods and find yourself a bear. Find yourself a mama bear with some cubs, and I dare you to get within 200 feet. I dare you. You won't even manage to get within 100 feet of that mama bear. If she sees you coming, she will turn you into shawarma, into shreds. A bear, an animal who's protecting her cubs. Try and do it with vast majority of animals out there. I just watched a video, no coincidence, this morning of a dog protecting her newborn infants from the father. You understand? And dog knows that it needs to protect its offspring. A bear, an animal in the woods, knows that it needs to protect its offsprings, and it will do it at all costs. It will even give up its life for that child. And yet, these people they're bringing kids into the world in order to send them out as suicide bombers. And if you don't believe me, my friends, just open your eyes. If you don't believe me, just take a look. 2 examples. One example, I don't know if you've seen, there's a guy by the name of Leland Vitter. He used to be a Fox News correspondent. And this guy, I just saw a video of him yesterday. Very, very telling. He talks about Wafa. You'll remember Gilad Shalit. We let 1,000 terrorists go in order to gain the freedom of Gilad Shalit, the soldier that was kidnapped. And what happens as a result? We gave up not only Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind behind October the 7th, but we also gave up this woman by the name of Wafa. And in short, this is a girl who, when she was very young, was scalded by hot water, boiling hot water, which threatened her life. And in the end, where does she go? To an Israeli hospital for treatment where they take absolute care of her. She spends years in a Jewish hospital being cared for. And then when she gets sent back to Gaza, she's sent with a card that allows her to pass back and forth with a lot of freedom into Israel for treatment, for medical treatment. As a result of that, I think it was Hamas, it could have been Al-Aqsa, they recruit her and they give her 3 choices. What do you want to bomb? A bus, a cafe, or the hospital? The same hospital that treated you and gave you back life. Do you know what she chose? The hospital. And they sent her in with a bomb. And thank God she got caught at the border. You may have seen the video. It's heart-wrenching, where she tries over and over again to detonate that bomb, but it doesn't go off. And she's miserable. She's crying because she wants so badly that this bomb should go off. This very same girl goes to a hospital again, gets treated, gets taken care of, sent back in after she was given the treatment and an education, goes back into Gaza, and the same reporter asks her, how do you feel? What were you thinking? Tell us, what was going through your mind when you pulled on that string, that detonator, to be able to blow yourself up? And she says that she almost tasted paradise, that she felt like she missed it by seconds, that she was so regretful that that bomb didn't go off. And he asked her, if you could do it again, would you? And she said, without a doubt. The same people that gave her back her life and gave her an education and took care of her and sent her back to her home, healthy and complete, was ready and willing to go back and do it over and over again, as many times as it takes to be able to become a martyr. Do you understand? Second example, you've seen this on the internet many times, and if you haven't, look it up. Do a quick Google search for an Israeli doctor interviewing a Palestinian woman whose son's life was saved. It is a video where you see the devil incarnate, where you look into this woman's eyes and you see dark, you see black. She has no soul inside of her. She's in a recovering room with the doctor and her little son, who's probably 5, 6, 7 years old, after having just gotten what I believe was a heart transplant, came to an Israeli hospital. His life was saved by a transplant. I'm not even sure. It could have been a Jewish donor, probably was, but that's just icing on the cake. And while this child is in recovery, the mother is speaking to the doctor, and the doctor is asking her questions out of pride. The doctor is asking her questions where he's expecting reasonable human answers. What do you think about your son now? What's going to be? What's his future? What are your aspirations for your child? What does he want to become? And you know what she says? A suicide bomber. I want my son, and he's going to become a suicide bomber. He is going to become a martyr for the Palestinian people. He is going to die killing Jews on the streets of Israel, in the buses. That's what she says to this doctor. And the doctor's floored. He doesn't know how to respond. He doesn't know what to say. He's at a loss for words. He keeps asking her the same question as though he's going to get a different answer. He doesn't believe the words that she's saying, but he can't. No human being can fathom this. I just finished telling you that a mama bear will rip you to shreds if you approach her cubs. And here this woman, who is there to check out her son, who just finished getting a life-saving transplant by a Jewish doctor, she tells that very same doctor to his face in the recovery room one day, my son, who you just saved with your money and your time and your resources and your organs, is going to come back and kill you and your family. You understand? People in the West haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. They think I'm making this up. It's too hard for the human being to digest this, to fathom it. That's why I was saying yesterday, you need to know who your enemies are. If you don't know who your enemy is, you are at a severe and critical disadvantage that will cost you your life. In the Torah, it says, Hakam le'ogecha hashkem ve'orgo. If somebody gets up to kill you, you have an obligation to step up and kill them first. Not if you want to, not if you feel like it, not if the circumstances are primed for it. In any situation where somebody is coming to take your life, you have an obligation to defend your life and the lives of your family. We were never given the authority to execute other people. God brings us into this world and He determines when we leave the world. That's it. The only time we're given the ability and the right to take a life is when our life is being threatened by that very same individual in self-defense. That's why even in court today, if somebody kills another individual who is coming to take their lives, then they are often set free on the grounds of self-defense. It is a legitimate defense, my friends. But for some reason, that doesn't sit well with Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly and all the other radicals on the alt-right. They're too busy making excuses for these people. Can you imagine? They're so bent on making excuses for the Wafas of the world, for the mother who's ready to send her son back in to destroy the very doctor that saved his life. And they do it with a smile on their face. Watch the video, guys. Let's get back into the book because we're not going to finish this podcast without the positivity, without the uplifting message of our wonderful Creator. We're talking about people in positions of authority who have power over you, seemingly. Judges, police officers, teachers, military commanders, government and bank clerks, they all wield a measure of power in their domain of authority. Their word is very important. And that, my friends, is a major test. If they pass that test, not only do they rectify themselves, but their entire past as well. If they don't pass the test, they do damage that is very difficult to repair for several reasons. I want you to understand, there are laws written specifically for judges and lawyers and people in positions of authority because we're not all put in that position. We all don't have the opportunity to impact so many lives. But if you're put in that position where you have that great ability, it comes with great responsibility. And therefore, additional rules and regulations were put in place just for those people. There are mitzvahs for judges that don't apply to everybody else. That's a message. There's a message in there. And the reason is that these people are taking on a greater level of responsibility, which ultimately will impact their eternity. Remember, they're also entitled to an eternity. So because they've taken on that greater responsibility, they have to have better boundaries, better borders, better guides and principles that allow them to make sure that they build a proper eternity for themselves. Why is it more difficult to recover if they make mistakes, if they fail at their greater test? Number one, because a person with no public authority comes into contact with very few people, much fewer than a person that has authority. And therefore, he helps or damages fewer people. Yet the person with authority directly affects people's lives, both in his behavior and in his decisions. So if he performs his task faithfully, if he does his job well, then he'll merit helping people in this life. And his life will be blessed, not just in this life, but in the next. Because remember, it works both ways. If he fails at his tests, his punishment is that much worse. If he passes his test, his reward is that much better. On the other hand, if he doesn't learn to use his authority properly, he'll commit repeated transgressions between man and fellow man. And these sins can't be corrected until he begs forgiveness from every individual whom he did damage to, which is virtually impossible. Think about this. A judge who damages individuals, he sees thousands and thousands of defendants over the years and over the course of their career. He can't possibly go back and undo all of the wrongdoing and all of the negative effects of a corrupt judgment. It simply can't. It's impossible. How's he going to find them all? How does he know who he caused damage to and the grief that accompanied that? He accrues spiritual debts that manifest themselves in all types of troubles that turn his life into a nightmare. He suffers in this world and he suffers in the next. Bottom line, this principle can be applied to us as well, my friends. The Jewish nation has taken on greater responsibility because it has greater abilities. And you see, with the Hatzalah ambulances and with the resources and the things that we put out into this world to make it a better place, that because we have those abilities, we take on the greater responsibility. It's the same thing here. But at the same time, remember that your reward or your punishment, the negative or positive consequence of your action, is directly connected to the amount of impact that you have on this world. That's why I say, with great ability comes great responsibility. Have an amazing day. Thank you for spending time with us on the Trust Factor podcast. If you've heard something today that moved you, save this episode and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming conversations that challenge, empower, and uplift. And if you're on social media, connect with us. Leave your thoughts. Drop a quote that resonated with you. Hashtag the Trust Factor podcast. Until next time, keep growing in your trust and keep living with purpose. I'm Jesse Revivo, and this has been the Trust Factor podcast. Thanks for listening.